Hello, what's up, everybody? I am live streaming because I finally got a bit of time. I know it's the odd hour, but honestly, if I don't do it right now, where I just happen to have just about 2 hours to live stream in between another appointment I have this evening, I will not be able to live stream. So yeah, sorry about the less frequent live streams lately, but literally every other time I'm having to either edit or go on a trip. So yeah, that's what it is. So anyways, let me just make sure the audio and everything is good because I tend to start talking and something goes wrong with it in the past couple times. So okay. It seems like it's good. Um, so, anyways, just wanted to give you an update. And the title of this stream is why I think Korea is the best place to be now and not Thailand. So, this is sort of like something I've been talking about for quite a bit of time. But just wanted to give you an update onto what is happening. My Wi-Fi connection is not good. Why is my Wi-Fi connection not good? Something is always happening here. Something is always happening. So anyways, I I'm not gonna like it's not gonna be like a 1 point, 2 point, 3 point PowerPoint presentation or anything. But I just wanted to sort of first like touch up on different things that are happening here and my plans for Thailand, etc. So here, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the latest video I've been editing. I'm sorry, guys, I haven't been able to make these public because as I explained in the last video live stream, I have certain obligations to different organizations out here that I'm working with to upload their videos by a certain time. But this is actually I still haven't even edited the other one, but I just recently released that I went to Busan and I was interviewing a diplomat here, and I made another video about the touring around Busan and stuff, all the touristy spots. But in the evening, I met up with a couple buddies and we went out to Busan to like Somyeon area, which is what this is, and to just sort of have some drinks and catch up. So I just sort of wanted to put this sort of in the background so you just see how it is in South Korea. Um, it's sort of been like this for like the past month. Um, yeah, maybe it's died down. I'm not sure if this has died down or not, but as far as like when I'm going out near Seoul, it's about this busy. Um, Especially the younger areas, even like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, it's been pretty active, you know. I mean, the only requirement is you just sort of have to wear a mask outside. But when you see inside, obviously you can't be wearing a mask because you're drinking or whatever, and if you're smoking or what, you have to take off your mask. So you have relative freedoms out here, and I would say that that is the main reason for me choosing Korea over Thailand. And it will be freedoms on many different levels, right? I know some people are going to watch this and go, oh, in America, I have the choice not to wear a mask or whatever. I don't know. Like my friends in America, they all have to wear a mask or something. So maybe they're from a state where there's nobody, so they don't have to wear a mask. Um, but yeah, even here in Korea, if I go to somewhere where there's nobody, like up in the mountains or whatever, I don't wear a mask because no one's going to enforce it. But being again a reminder, Korea being the second largest metropolitan area in the world and also being the most densely populated city in the world, being able to have relative freedom to move around there. All it is just wear a mask or whatever, and I could still enjoy all this atmosphere, the bustling activity. That is something I would much rather have than be stuck, I don't know, in the middle of some countryside area and have to not get to wear a mask. I don't know what it is. And especially compared to Thailand, as far as I'm aware of, you still have to wear a mask, blah blah blah. They haven't like opened up bars. Did they open up the bars? I don't know. Like this is like the thing that everyone is like waiting for, to open the bars up in Thailand. There's never once when the bars in Korea have ever closed. So I guess I take this for granted. But like basically every establishment is open in Korea. The only time it's ever been regulated, it was like it would have to close by 10 p.m., you know? And that's a huge regulation in Korea because bars don't have a curfew in Korea. It's not like America or Thailand where, after 12 o'clock or 2 p.m., there's like some regulation you can't serve alcohol. Korea doesn't have those kinds of regulations. So to Koreans, this is a huge regulation because we love to go out and party literally all night. So that regulation has been lifted, and that's why I'm trying to like enjoy as much of it as I can before the regulations go back in place. Because the thing about um, the situation right now is that it's not gonna disappear. I've been saying it for a while. Um, Vaccinating is not going to eliminate this virus. It's gonna definitely help people who have compromised immune systems. I highly recommend people over 60 particularly get vaccinated. As a matter of fact, I mean, just to throw it out there, I just recently got vaccinated too with my first dose, and but it's just like a short-term solution, and eventually it's going to catch up and you just got to keep getting boosters or whatever, but we're just going to have to forever live with it. That's the point. And the virus doesn't get less stronger, it's only going to get worse because that's just how, living beings work. They adapt and they try to survive. So if people are vaccinated, the viruses have to adapt and try to, infect people who are vaccinated, etc. It's been happening with the flu for, I don't know why people were quoting cases of, oh, vaccinating and I don't know what some random like viral infection was. They're like, oh, eliminated that. Well, it's not. It's different. The flu is just, it spreads, it's airborne, etc. That's the closest thing to this family, the coronavirus. So I don't think it's gonna go away, and you're gonna have to just sort of live with it. And right now, that's how I'm judging where I want to be, even with this situation. Who is best able to handle it and give me relative freedoms and be able to do what I want during this time? Um, is Thailand and Korea even comparable cost of living and weather? Yeah, I certainly do think so. But as far as weather, if you only like a place that's gonna be super hot all the time, no, they're not. So if you are somebody that just wants to be in a place that's completely hot all the time, yeah, you can go to Thailand. But Korea isn't even that cold as I would always say. Because when I was in Thailand, there's people who are like, Thailand is just too hot. And I would just tell them, well, when it's hot, you just stay indoors and there's AC everywhere. And it's the same situation with Korea. And what people don't understand about Korea is Korea has the most advanced heating systems in the world. I mean, it's like historical. Like hundreds of years ago, they had the first heated, like even the traditional homes have heated floors. So, I mean, you guys could look it up because right now Korea is like blowing up with their heated systems. They're first starting out by exporting it to Russia right now. And it started to grow because when they had the Winter Olympics, all the Olympians came to Korea, and then they were experiencing like heated floors in Korea, and they're like, well, what is this? But in Korea, like in the winter, it's not a big deal that it's cold because you're gonna be indoors anyways most of the time, and it's warm as heck, and it's not like a direct heating system like in the West. The heated floors, it just keeps it at a really good temperature where it's just normal. Like right now, it's pretty cold outside, but yeah. Anyways, that being said, it's just everyone's preference. But um you can't compare two countries. But for me, I'm thinking, you guys all know me. I don't have a lot of money, right? So how am I able to survive in Korea? Obviously, because the cost is relatively low. And as far as cost being low, what can I do and that I'm gonna have a lot of fun with? And when it comes to, like, for example, nightlife, which a lot of people are like are really interested in, I could argue Korea is just as cheap or possibly even cheaper than Thailand, being that there aren't these huge like taxes levied against liquor. So in Korea, for example, when I go out and I buy a bottle of soju, even in like inside an establishment, a whole bottle is 4,000원, which is about $3. Whereas if I went to Thailand, I could get like maybe like a cheap beer that's not really gonna do much for me. So I would have to just like drink a lot of that and screw up my intestines, which is what happened because the brewing situation there is not good. It cost me a lot more. And if I started getting like bottles, I mean, they only start having whiskeys and stuff. So then it becomes absurdly expensive when you go out for a night in Bangkok. It's not as cheap as Korea. I mean, I don't think it's absurdly expensive in Thailand because if I compare it to America, that's absurdly expensive. Like if I get a bottle, it's minimum $100, etc. But it's just absurdly cheap to be having nightlife and enjoying nightlife in Korea. Um, are Korean people typically friendly like Thais? Yeah, I would say so. At least for me. Like there's people with all sorts of different experiences, and you'll see like there's this guy on Discord, and he was arguing that Thais are the most racist people in the world. I don't think so, and we were all arguing, no, not really. But every culture has their own like biases and racisms. I think Thai people are super chill. But as far as like on the racism level, I think, like we're all sort of equally as racist. We just sort of don't show it the same way per se. Um, Thais, like I don't think if you're there for a vacation, it's gonna be very pleasant because, well, most of the people you're interacting with are going to be hotel guests, like hotel people who are literally paid to be at your beck and call. People who sell street food or whatever because they're literally making money by serving you food, etc., etc. People in the tourism industry. It's only like when you start living there, etc., you start interacting with people and you get into these other things, and there's a lot of biases because how do I say it? I don't want to generalize the typical like Thai expat, but as far as what you see on YouTube, you'll generally see a lot of wealthier Western expats who are significantly better off than the Thai counterparts that they're usually dealing with, who are being generous. So they're literally like, why, if you're like paying for their drinks and blah 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 blah, or letting them stay at your house for free, or like, why would they be racist to you? Now, there are many reasons someone to be disliked. Race is just one of the many reasons. Yeah, exactly. um but in Korea, like, I think it's not that racist in a sense that Koreans are typically like you see right here. I'm enjoying. I just randomly met these people and they love us, etc. So like in Korea, like they really really like Westerners. That's what I like. As an American, they're very familiar with Americans because Korean War, etc. Like Korea's closest ally is like America, and you see even in my diplomatic bald people claim discrimination. Yeah, I mean, if I was bald, I might be discriminated against too. Like I don't have hair. I don't know. I mean, there's discrimination in all levels. But I mean, long story short, let me just summarize that I've never had issues. Korea has treated me very well. For my personal case, which may be sort of biased because I'm American. Americans are particularly liked out here in Korea. I've been treated much better than in Thailand per se, I would say. Like when I just like Koreans are just really polite, but they show it less in a like, like a happy like it's they're just not like that, But when you talk to them and then you're like, "Hey, you're at a bar," they're super friendly to you and they're really interested in your culture, etc. But what really puts Korea above Thailand is on top of the fact that the people are really polite and nice to you, the government policies here are, I think, less discriminatory. What I mean by that is just that was one of the main reasons I came here because that's something I can objectively say is it's gonna be less racist towards me because like the immigration policy, etc., is much less racist. It's much easier for me to acquire visas here, especially as an American. Like this is the easiest way I could like put it. As an American, if you come to Korea, you don't need a visa. You could come here visa free and stay here 90 days. Whereas in Thailand, you would have to, right now it's a ton of hoops and loops, but you would have to if it wasn't for this situation, you would go to the embassy and apply with like something that shows that you have a ticket in, a ticket out, etc., and get like a tourist visa for 60 days, and that will cost you like somewhere like $50, right? So that's how it is. Like Korea's borders are just much more open. um Let's see. Easy to talk to. I like that. 90 days, nice. Yeah. I think everyone is sort of relatively easy to talk to, but um, the other thing that I sort of like about Koreans is you'll see that I talk a lot and I'm more methodical. Like I like to really talk about things in depth. And I would say like generally Thai people are more like happy-go-lucky people. So if you just want to go out and you just want to say like very short phrases and not like deal and like discuss or debate about things, if you're not that kind of person, then I would say on average and I'm not saying all Thai people are like this because there are some very brainy Thai people too, but like on typical night out when I like would talk to a girl at a bar, yeah, there wouldn't be much conversation in Thailand. And the music is so freaking loud, it doesn't even let you talk. Like it's designed for you to just drink and just like laugh or whatever. I found out the hard way. Whereas Korea, like people are very talkative, so I could get into more in-depth conversations, and this is nice. Like, I mean, as you can see in this video here, uh, I was well, I met up with an expat in the beginning, so we're talking about with her, and it's nice. There's like it's really hard to meet female expats in Thailand, but it's very easy to meet female expats in Korea. They're everywhere. So this is just like a local. They're completely Korean, grew up in Korea, never even studied in America or whatever. And I'm just having a conversation with them in English. So we're having conversations for like the whole night. That's her and her boyfriend, and they were just visiting Busan, and she was telling me she works for Lotte, and like I said, oh, I like Lotte, which is like the sweets and the snacks, and she's like, yeah, we work with influencers, and I was able to like sort of network with her, and it was all good. So, um, Thais do love loud music. Yeah, it's so freaking loud. You can't. It's not designed for you to talk to people, and that's the mistake a lot of people make. Like Americans, we go and then we try to talk to the girls, and they're like, they don't even understand. You just have to like break it down into like some senses. So, but in Korea, like it's a bit different. People like to talk. They like to be a bit more intellectual, etc. Um, with their and brainy with their conversations. So that's what it is. So if I had to generalize, I don't think Koreans are any more racist than Thais. and certainly with the government regulations and stuff, therefore I think they're less racist. I could go more in depth with this, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. You could do the research yourself, like with all the stuff that's happening in Thailand. But and the thing too is it's trending towards less racist too. In Korea, you guys have to understand it was a hermit kingdom. So Koreans have been relatively ignorant to foreigners for a large period of their history. And only like after the Korean War have they sort of had interactions with foreigners on a regular basis, which it's only been like 70 years, guys. So it's like less than 100 years of somewhat like, and even during that time after the Korean War, it's just soldiers, like mainly based around Seoul or whatever. Like I would say it was a rare sight to see like a foreigner on the streets of Korea, like even until like 10 years ago. But within those 10 years, they have like quickly adapted and made a lot of changes to their immigration policy, etc., to accommodate for foreigners. So they've just as amazing as their economic growth has been, it still has their community around foreigners and foreign immigrants. So this is something that happens, and like just go when I talk to like expats here and they ask how do I get a permanent residency, like for example in Thailand, or how do I get citizenship, we'll just tell them you just pretty much can't. It's like an impossible task to do over there. But here in Korea, it's like almost everybody is on their pathway to get like a permanent residency. Or oh, Mayu saying bye Mayu. I was video chatting. Every expat here in Korea is on a pathway to get a permanent residency or a citizenship. Seriously, like when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, like because it takes like 3 years or 5 years, and then they'll get a permanent residency, which is like an impossible thing to do. And like it's not even that we like you sort of troll somebody who's like, oh, you're gonna actually try to get the. It's like a lottery system over there, even if you meet the requirements, which are really, really, really high. So and I only see this getting better each year. That's one thing that I do like about here. You relatively have more stability, and it's like I sort of feel like the Korean expats are spoiled because the stuff they complain about with Korean immigration policy is like you're comparing it to America, and even America isn't even as good as Korea is in some cases. Um, like for example, they're like, oh, even if I'm married, I have to like check in every 2 years or every 3 years and renew it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, in Thailand, every year you have to renew it. You could be married for 40 years, and if you don't have the right amount of money in your account or whatever, you could technically be deported. With Korea, all it is the husband is just certifying that, or the wife is certifying that, you're still married. So it's not like you're not married. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the same situation in America. You have to do this, and they're gonna have like they it's like pretty difficult there because they do these fake marriages in America. And not to even mention, even if you do get married or whatever, to get that person into America and get this process started to get her into a permanent residency is like you have to wait a year or two. Like I've experienced this before. I almost married a Korean and I just wanted a fiance visa. And it took 2 years to get approved. And like I had to spend like $3,000 and I was cheap and I did it myself. So if I paid an agency, it cost like somewhere from like 5,000. It's like the barrier to entry in America for like a marriage visa is even more difficult than Korea, which is, it's like you're comparing it to a developed Western country that's relatively not racist per se, right? So, yeah, I mean, like the stuff that they complain about in Korea is like, I'm like, dude, it's even worse in America, and it's definitely like light years ahead, several generations ahead of like Thailand's immigration policy, So, like that's the one thing that I would sort of say it sort of gives me a bit more stability out here because I feel like if I build my life here, it's not just going to be taken away from me because it's like the whim of the government, like all of a sudden like making the hoops and loops higher, which is what's been happening. And it's very and that's why you'll see a lot of these older established expats in Thailand. They've been sort of leaving Thailand the past year or two. I get it. Like, it's still being in Thailand is still going to be better than in America for many reasons. And if you aren't an expat in Thailand, it's like the grass is greener on the other side still. So everyone is trying to get in there. Whereas all my expat friends have left and now they're sort of in Mexico or whatever with only like one or two stragglers back in Thailand still dealing with it. But every year it's just the hoops have been getting higher and higher. And it's not like just the last 5 years, because when I got there 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I had all these Russian expats and these other dudes saying, yeah, I can't deal with this. And I'm constantly dealing with expats who are complaining all the time. And I'm just like, why don't you just leave? And that's what it is. Like, if it doesn't work out for you, just leave. So that's sort of where I am at. If I had to summarize, I still love Thailand, but I was just getting fed up with a lot of the policies there. And I just want to experience Thailand for what it is the best at, which is I love the warm weather in the winter. So, that's why I still have my condo there and everything. I plan on using it as a long-term vacation spot in the winter. But as far as building something, I feel like you're building it on like, it's like a house of cards over there. It could just topple over, whereas you're on more solid footing here in Korea, especially as like an influencer, because a lot of what we do is we're talking about things, and putting it into perspective here. I wanted to just sort of show you guys. I was talking about this on Discord, and I wanted to actually show you what's here. So this is a press freedom index, and this is how much freedom you have for freedom of speech, for press, etc. Right? South Korea ranks 42. It's actually the highest ranked Asian country. Here's just like why is this not showing this part? See, the only little yellow area right there is Korea and Taiwan. Even Japan has a lot of restrictions on press, and of course, if it's red or black, it's pretty bad, right? It's the same as America. As a matter of fact, 42 might not sound good, but it's still ranked above America. So you have relative freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Like, Koreans, the reason you hear a lot of bad things about Korea is because Koreans have the freedom to complain about it, and the government actually does something about it. So that's why you constantly see changes that suit the public here. And it applies also to foreigners. We have complete freedom to speak up against racist policies, etc. So, like, I remember there was a situation back in March where they're requiring foreign factory workers, mainly because it was foreign factory workers, there was a huge outbreak amongst them. They're requiring the foreigners to get tested, which it wasn't that big of a deal, I guess, because even I wasn't doing it and nobody was saying anything. But they're just sort of pushing foreigners to get tested for COVID. And it was just like a matter of a day when all the foreigners started complaining, and even like the ambassador, the British ambassador, complained. It got overturned in like 2-3 days because it's a racist policy just to request foreigners to get tested. Now, would this happen in Thailand? Like, in my experience, no, because there's been situations like this, and people have been complaining for like months and months and months, and I'm like having to do TM30, all sorts of BS to jump through hoops and loops, and nothing changes until like sometimes maybe 4 months down the road, they're like, okay, you sort of don't have to do it, but it's like not even clear if you don't have to do it. And then I hear they're doing it again. It's just it's like, yeah, that kind of stuff. And you have a lot of freedoms here as far as what you can say. And if you want to like put this into perspective, because I know a lot of you guys are in Thailand. Thailand ranks 137 It's right above Philippines, right above South Sudan. Um, like even United Arab Emirates has more freedom of speech. You know, Jordan, Zimbabwe, like these Middle Eastern countries have more freedom of speech, like Kuwait, right? Um, and there's, let's just say, there's still things I can't say about Thailand. I choose, like, it's just because it's illegal. Like basically, it's this one law that is so broadly interpreted, but it's such a strict punishment because it's a national security law, and you're basically threatening national security with your choice to exercise freedom of speech. Like anything such as even like saying the police here are like sort of racist. If you say something like that, I'm not saying that they are, but let's just say you think that the police are sort of racist, and you say it could be so like even that statement could be broadly like interpreted where you are threatening Thailand's national security and you could be sent to jail. I mean, if you want to see a real life scenario of something that's happening like this, um, okay. So, anyways, this is what like as far as Thailand, even if the COVID situation clears up, one of the reasons I'm sort of a bit cautious about it is, first of all, I don't think COVID situation is going to clear up anytime soon. It's it's a calm before the storm, right? As it's been demonstrated in Korea and everywhere else. But like if you check out the news there and what's happening around this freedom of speech, it's it might be alarming for someone like an American where we want to talk about things and be like honest and portray Thailand in the most truthful manner possible, because especially if you're a YouTuber like me, because your hands are tied. There's only certain things you can say, you know? And I mean, right now the biggest issue right now is Amnesty International saying, that it's that organization that goes to, that's, you probably heard them because they're in China and they were making awareness about the Uyghurs or whatever. You may or may not disagree with them or whatever. I'm not saying that they're right or whatnot, but just for the fact of the news, I'm just basically quoting what this newspaper is saying. There is a big back and forth between them and Thailand, because Amnesty International is saying, blah, blah, blah about Thailand. And you have two camps, one saying, yes, we need to repeal this law, and the other one saying, no, it's threatening the monarchy. And there is like this tension that is building up. And that is why Thailand is like in one of the watch lists for a country that is like another organization has deemed it as a place where it's most likely to have like one of the not most likely in the world, but one of the more likely countries where mass killings are about to happen. It's just, that's how much tension is building up, that certain organizations are putting it on a watch list like that. And how serious it's getting is, for example, this person's been sort of in the headlines, but she's basically in jail because she talked in a rally. But which is like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty extreme for Thailand. You shouldn't be talking in rallies. But the other thing that they're charging her is she was walking around with like two words printed on her shirt or whatever. And that was also considered a threat to national security. It's like Miss Peninsula was allowed bail over cases related to words written on her body deemed offensive to the monarchy while strolling in Bangkok shopping, and a speech she made at a youth-led rally in Ayutthaya, right? Wait, hold on. Maybe I misinterpreted it. Two words. Oh, it wasn't two words. Maybe it's more words. Anyways, so this is what's happening, and that's why these international organizations are saying da, 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 da. So basically freedom of speech is something that we Americans take for granted. I'm not saying that this is good or bad. Again, I'm not, don't say I'm trying to like say bad things about Thailand. I'm not saying that this is good or bad. It's their freedom to do it. But as an American that's used to freedom of speech, I would say when you come to Korea, you're gonna feel much more at home because you saying things isn't gonna land you in jail. Like I could go out to the public and openly like criticize the Korean government for having certain racist policies or whatever, and I don't have to like think, is what I'm saying offensive? Is this a national security threat? Are they gonna put me in jail for it? Are they gonna deport me over it? Like, this is tough for somebody that's very talkative like me that wants to make content per se. So that is one of the main reasons I am choosing to base myself out of Korea over Thailand. Like, I'm completely okay going to Thailand, having a great, fantastic time there, and portraying it as a fantastic vacation spot. Because on that level, there is almost nothing bad I can say about Thailand. But what I do have to make clear is my choice of where I live is a different matter. It's like, especially as a content creator, I want to be somewhere where there is um freedom of speech. It's important to me. And if you're planning on retiring there, etc., because let's let's not sugarcoat it. Especially when you get old, you get far more opinionated and you get more grumpy, and you want to complain about the younger people. Blah 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 blah. Having freedom of speech is quite suffocating. You only people who've experienced it could like tell you. So that's one of the reasons, right? So, I mean, this is why I think also as a content creator, being in Korea right now is where it's at. I said this and somebody sort of laughed me off and they're like, "No, Korea is not going to get any bigger with content or media, etc." And I'm like, "No, it's just getting started." And I said, "There is actually another show that is right in the horizon that I assure you is going to be big. It's going to be Hellbound." I even said what show it was because I was doing content, like I was making content about Korean webtoons, and I learned that Netflix was investing in Korean webtoons, and so are Korean like dramas, etc. They're investing in webtoons, which is basically um it's like manga and cartoons and comics, but it's designed on the web. And Korea has like the system of allowing independent manga artists, creators to mass produce and still get paid for making original content that's not going to be so like traditional, dependent on the publishing house structure. So I think that's what's like creating like the creativeness in Korean media. And I said Hellbound is big because that's the guy that directed Train to Busan, which already is big, etc. And Squid Games was something actually that came out of nowhere. And sure enough, I saw that, and then it was like one day, Hellbound tops Netflix global rankings is just a day after release. And this is actually only the beginning. Like, for example, Squid Games, when I saw the budget for it, it was less than a tenth of some other, like just any other random, show, like Narcos, The Crown, or whatever. It was just only the budget was like a tenth of it, or less than a tenth. It's some ridiculously low amount. And that was actually considered big budget for Korean standards. So Netflix is only going to invest more. And I have insider information on this. So if Netflix invests more in Korea as far as media content creation, everybody else has to follow. It doesn't matter if Disney or Amazon or all these other guys don't want to create content in Korea. If Netflix is doing it and they are amassing original content at a significantly higher rate than they are, and they're trying to compete with original content, which is basically the main driver of these streaming sites that they need original content, and Netflix is doing it where they're getting popular content which is topping their charts at a tenth and a fraction of the cost, so they can produce 10 times as much. It's just a business decision that they're going to inevitably have to create a ton of content out of Korea. And people are like, well, why Korea? I mean, Japan has interesting stuff, etc., blah, blah, blah. But again, I'm telling you guys, it's been a long time coming. It's not by any fluke that this happened. Japan, by the way, where they rank in the freedom of speech, it's not good. They're not even in the same color category as Korea. There's a lot of, not only is it expensive to produce content there, but there's just a lot of censorship. And in Korea, ever since 2000, when they started allowing more freedom of press and more freedom to artistic creators, etc., which is why Korea's, not all the publishing houses are in Korea, like not all of it, but all the Asian publishing houses are moving their headquarters to Korea. And also why all the money is being thrown at Korea. It's gonna, I believe, create a cultural revolution. And when after this year having just toured around Korea to the different cities and seeing just how much money is being invested to make cities like not only Seoul, Busan, and Jeju already like big tourist attractions, but even just random cities like out in the nowhere to become tourist attractions. I think once COVID clears up, it's only going to get bigger because Korea is doing a lot to spend a lot of money to promote itself as a tourist destination. And although it hasn't really picked up as much with all the crowds out in the West, particularly in like Southeast Asia and in the countries where Korea, Asian media has far more influence than Western media, it's already like becoming the number one destination. And that's why like people in Japan are quite concerned, because I mean, quite like on a personal level, I personally want to really travel to Japan. And that's why when people ask me, when are you going back to Thailand? And I'm like, my girlfriend's is in Japan. So, I'm sorry to break this to you, but I would, if everything is given equal, I would go to Japan first. That's just what it is, because it's not that Thailand is a bad place, but I've experienced a lot of Thailand. I literally live there, and I'll go back there some other time in the future, guys. So I mean, I have to go there. I have a condo there. It's like it's inevitable that I'll be going back. But being that I'm somebody that likes to experience new things, why would I pass up an opportunity to travel to Japan? That's one of the main reasons I originally came to Korea, because when I'm in Thailand, I have access to a lot of these Southeast Asian countries. But if I go to Korea, then I'll have access to a lot of the East Asian countries like Japan, China, Taiwan. Like these are the two main hubs in Asia. Bangkok is an international hub for Southeast Asia, that region where you have access to India, all the Southeast Asian countries there, etc. That's why I love Bangkok as an international hub. And Korea Incheon Airport, that's like the biggest airport around here, is the main hub to China and all the East Asian countries. So basing myself out of these two countries, it made sense, especially because I have permanent residency in Korea just by the nature of, being ethnically Korean. So I'm given a lot of freedoms here and ability to earn money. And that brings me to another point why I will, for the time being, base myself out of Korea. And it's that if you're somebody that's retired and you're fixed income, it doesn't matter whether or not you work or how much money you earn working. Thailand is definitely not a bad place. Why? Because cost of living is low. I know ways you can live cheaply there. You can live cheaply in Korea as well, but if the main thing you care about is warm weather and even housing, you can get really nice housing with land. So if you care about land, owning land, then Korea would be the better place. But a lot of people don't care about land. They want like even if it's a small condo, like a small condo with really nice amenities. And that would be the specialty with Thailand, I think. And that's why I like it. You get like a swimming pool. I never use it, but it's nice to know that you have a swimming pool. You have a nice gym. Now Korea's building everything with gyms too, but let's just say it just has like this hotel vibe, like the homes there, even though it's smaller and you're not owning land. But if you're somebody that likes land, you want like land to plant farms or like out in the nature, blah blah blah. It's like maybe even cheaper to own homes out here in Korea, if you want to go out into the countryside. It's not even legally possible for you to own homes in Thailand, for example. So, like land. So you gotta like buy a condo. So, but anyways, like cost of living, and if you prefer that kind of lifestyle, then yeah, Thailand would be a great place. But when it comes to like your ability to earn money, even as an English teacher, it's like I could make 3, 4 times more money teaching in Vietnam, which has an even lower cost of living than Thailand, right? Thailand just really, really underpays expats. And there's nothing wrong with that. The reason they can do that is because there's such a high demand to be living in Thailand, which brings me to this point of thinking like it's now getting just hyped. Luckily, I got in when it wasn't hyped, and I bought my condo at what I believe was a reasonable price. But now, because Thailand's been getting hyped so much and getting the limelight for the last like 4 or 5 years, the price has gone up significantly higher. And it's like, it's arguable. Originally it wasn't the better investment, because that's why I originally wanted to buy a condo in Vietnam. I'm like, I'm gonna sacrifice the return on investment for like a lower cost of living. It wasn't a lower cost of living, but more like quality of life, I'd say, for Thailand. Because now I sort of wish I got it in Vietnam, because I could have just paid really low rent anyways, and I would have more than doubled my money if I bought my condo in Da Nang, like people were recommending at that time, because the real estate there went up higher. But I don't really consider my home buying as an investment. That's the thing, guys. Like people are like, how do I invest in Thailand? I don't really think investing in Thailand is what I did. I got it because I liked it. So don't ever think like buying real estate in Thailand is an investment. It wasn't, but still, like I still got it when it was, I think, reasonable. But now that the price, like my condo and everything, has doubled, and everybody else trying to get in, yeah, the prices have gone down because of the situation. It's true, but it hasn't gone down to below when I got it 5 years ago, etc. It's still significantly higher. Yeah, I mean, I think you're ending up paying a lot. I mean, if you just consider it for square footage, the price is really similar to what it was in California, like maybe even more, because like the square footage is really low. That's a sequester for sure. But moral of the story is it's right now overpriced, I think. And I am actually like the light at the end of the tunnel of this situation is that I hope it decreases demand in Thailand with all the situation that's happening. So it does become where it's more reasonably priced, right? So that's where I'm going with that. As far as cost of living. Okay, let me just catch up on the comments here. Thais love loud music. Do more people speak English in Korea? Good night from Salt Lake. Got to get me some shut eye. Yeah. Okay. Do more people speak English in Korea? I would say as a number, yeah. Well, like overall, if you talk about Korea overall, yes, I'm sure, because Korea's English teaching is far superior than Thailand, I think. In the but when there is this situation, street food vendors and restaurant owners and such tend to not be younger generation. Now they're sort of starting to do that. Like the ajumas are like the people that grew up with English education. But even like 10 years ago, and even now, when you see most of these street vendors, they're like old ajushis and ajumas, like older guys. And older people didn't get the English education growing up. They actually got Japanese education. So they don't speak English. So there's this perception that Koreans don't speak English, which to most tourists it is an issue. But nowadays, especially because street vendors are sort of like whatever, like your main like street vendors that are all over the streets are sort of dying down, and tourists are going to relatively like touristy areas like Myeongdong and stuff, where they'll not only just speak English but they'll speak 5 languages like Chinese, Japanese, etc. You're not going to have issues with these vendors, etc. But what I do find is that although like when I go to like a bar or whatever, um, first of all, there's bars catered to foreigners in Korea, and I tend to go to those, so I'm biased. Yeah, when you go there, everybody will speak English very fluently because the Koreans that go there tend to speak English and are looking to meet foreigners. And there's more like Koreans than you could ever have the time to meet at these bars, like because the bar areas in Korea, like if you see one of like my videos, you'll see that bar areas in Korea are like 5, 6 times larger than bar areas in Thailand. Like one district's bar area has more bars than like Sukhumvit and all the bars in Sukhumvit combined almost that cater to foreigners. You know what I'm saying? Like it's huge. So just the foreigner bars alone, those areas just have like huge gatherings. So there's a lot. So I would say, yeah, Koreans, they speak English. But what I like about Koreans is they when they speak English, they want to like speak like about in-depth topics, like I said. Like in Thailand, there's more people that speak English at just like a very basic level. Like, sure, you could go to a street vendor, and most of them will know, like, how much, and then they'll go, 4 or 5. Like sometimes they don't even speak, but they sort of understand, and they'll just like say this. And you can communicate with most people, and they speak like just very basic. It's very hard to find Thais that want to have like very intellectual conversations with you. I generally have to stick to like Tong Lore and meet like Chula graduates and such, and there's still like there'll be more than enough people to have intellectual conversations with, but like when I talk to like Koreans, almost all of them want to have intellectual conversations, So if they speak English, it's like a more advanced level. So that's what I like about Korea, and so it's all gonna really depend on your experience. I think as an older person, you're gonna have a harder time though finding people that speak fluent English because they just didn't grow up with the education. But even if you're like in your 40s or 50s, they all grew up with like very rigorous English education. Like I would not be exaggerating to say learn the English subject is possibly the most important subject in Korea as you grow up. Like in America, it's like what science and maths or whatever. Like in Korea, the most important subject is English. The most amount of money parents spend to educate their children is on English. They will go to school, and not only is English one of their main topics, but they will go to after school academies and learn another 3-4 hours of English every day. It's like, I kid you not, that's like sort of the standard here. And that is why, like, as an English teacher, people love Korea because there's such a high demand and such a high pay, especially if you're talented. Like, the sky's the limit on what you can demand for teaching English, because English is so important here. And particularly American English, because Koreans want American English accent, which is actually different than some other countries. Like you'll see like in Thailand and such, you'll just have a lot of British accents and Aussies because it's more diverse. But in Korea, they particularly want Americans with American accents, which is even if you're British, they try to tell you, if you can't, please speak in an American accent, because that's what parents want. Just because of the relationship between Korea and America is huge. So yeah. Um, That being said, I think I have to wrap up here because I have my meeting that I have. So I didn't really touch up on what I'm gonna be doing, but as far as yeah, the next month I'm totally booked. I'm getting a lot of jobs and connections to earn money here as a content creator. So I'm really pursuing that. That's why I've been really busy, guys. I'm sorry about it. And yeah, now I sort of have like another meeting, which will hopefully be more fruitful. And it's been just life. Korea has been treating me really well. Like you guys know, I didn't really have an intention to stay here when I first came. It was mainly just to be with my family. So the first year I focused on that, and I wasn't really pursuing anything to like really grow myself as an influencer out here. But come second year, I was like, yeah, this I realized, yeah, this thing isn't going away. So I joined a lot of the influencer groups, and it was sort of a sacrifice I had to make because I want to create content that my viewers are seeking, like exactly the content they want. But I know if I join these influencer groups, although it is about topics in general that I want to make, like I joined Seoul Tourism Organization because I do want to learn more about Seoul, the city. And but like a lot of them turned out to, some of the missions that they give us isn't exactly what I'm interested in, like, or what my viewers might be interested in. Like they might say, make a content about K-pop or Korean culture, media culture, and I'm like, but like a lot of the times, half of them I ended up liking it in the end and learning a lot more about it through those experiences. So I think that's valuable. Most importantly, it allowed me to network with get my foot in the door and network with a lot of the expats here, make friends. So I'm hoping next year I'm not gonna be joining any of these tourism organizations, or as many, maybe just one, because that will give me much more free time to create content that I think is more relevant, that I want to do, the quality of content that I'm gonna do. And now I'm getting a bit more connections to be able to do that and fund it. So it's all just like phases, and that's what I plan on bringing to you guys next year, and I'm really excited. Already at the end of this year, like next week, I'm gonna be going to Tanyang again, and I'm gonna be like paragliding. Like there's just a lot of activities that are gonna be done there, and this is a collab between huge YouTubers, like with 1.9 million subscribers. Another one has 250K, like bigger YouTubers than I am. So it's like I'm really thankful for all these opportunities that are being provided to me, which I couldn't even imagine would have been available to me a year ago. Um, and I got nowhere near uh, making videos for 3, 4, 5 years in Thailand. Like some degree, I'm sort of kicking myself because like if I did this like 3, 4, 5 years ago in Korea when it was really booming, I could really be up there. But yeah, I mean, I hope to build upon this and eventually be able to you know use that as a stepping stone to also help me live and travel in all of Asia, because yeah, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not live travel Thailand, live travel Korea. I'm live travel Asia. So, um, like all of the everything that I'm doing is, still focused on eventually getting me to the goal of being able to live and travel in all of Asia. So, um, this is my update. I'll try to get back to you guys and give you more details on it, etc. But thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you guys again soon, wherever it may be. Hopefully this thing clears up, and we could just all start traveling like we all originally planned to. But until that point, right now I'm very happy where I'm at right now, and I'm very grateful for everything Korea has been doing to me, and all the opportunities I've been getting here. So, by the way, guys, for more like recent updates, I would recommend you get on my Facebook or Instagram, because I've been really focusing on doing Insta stories, which, because there's so many vlogs I need to do. Like sometimes, like the other day I went like hiking, and it was like I wish I vlogged about it, because we had such it was like a much more amazing view and experience than I thought hiking it. And then like the dinner afterwards was like one of my most favorite. That's why I'm returning back to this place. But I never made a vlog on it. But I put it on my Insta stories, which also gets uploaded into my Facebook stories. So you get little tidbits and the most recent updates of what I'm up to, and you can chat with me there or whatever. And even though I'm busy, I generally respond to everybody on those, because it's a lot more work. Like responding to YouTube comments just is not designed, but like to do that. So I generally converse a lot more on those platforms. So, yep. See you on there. Live Travel Asia on Instagram, or Facebook is Ethan LTA. So, bye bye, guys.